The Breathing Forest, based on events documented in northern Poland, October 2023. The following account was reconstructed from video files recovered from a damaged camera found near the village of Sterjushi. The owner, 24-year-old Marta Kowalska, has not been seen since October 29th. My name is Marta. I'm a wildlife photographer, and 3 weeks ago, I made the mistake of entering the Borecka Forest alone. If you're watching this, I need you to understand something. What I'm about to tell you isn't fiction. It isn't a story designed to frighten you. Everything I describe actually happened, and by the time you finish listening, you'll wish it hadn't. It started with a job. A nature magazine commissioned me to photograph the ancient oaks of Borecka, a primeval forest straddling the Polish-Russian border. The assignment seemed perfect. Autumn colors, morning mist, that golden light photographers dream about. Easy money. But there's a reason the locals call this place Martwilos, the dead forest. A reason the nearby villages empty at sunset. A reason no one walks these paths after dark. I should have listened to the old woman at the gas station. She grabbed my wrist when she saw my camera equipment. Her fingers were ice cold. Her eyes were clouded with cataracts. But somehow I knew she could see me perfectly. "The forest takes pretty girls," she whispered. "It took my daughter. 40 years ago. She went to pick berries. We found her camera. Never found her. Pulled away. Smiled politely. Drove on. That was my first mistake. The forest was beautiful. I'll give it that. Ancient oaks with trunks wider than cars. Moss-covered stones that looked like sleeping giants. Shafts of golden light cutting through the canopy like spotlights on an empty stage. I spent the first day shooting near the main trail. Safe. Familiar. Tourist territory. But the shots were boring. Predictable. Nothing that would make an editor sit up and take notice. So on the second day, I went deeper. There's a point in every forest where civilization ends. Where the bird sounds change. Where the air gets thicker. Where your phone stops finding signal. I crossed that line around noon, following a deer trail that wound between ancient spruces. That's when I first felt it. The watching. Not suspicious. Not threatening. Just attention. Like the forest had noticed me. Like every tree, every shadow, every patch of moss had turned to observe the strange creature with her camera and her hiking boots and her complete ignorance of what she was walking into. I stopped. Listened. Nothing but wind in branches. But the wind sounded wrong. Too rhythmic. Too steady. Almost like breathing. I told myself it was my imagination. Took a few photos. Kept walking. The deer trail led to a clearing I hadn't seen on any map. In the center stood a tree unlike anything I'd ever photographed. A birch, but twisted. Its white bark spiraling upward like a corkscrew. Its branches reached out horizontally, perfectly level, forming a natural canopy that blocked all sunlight. Beneath the tree, the ground was black. Not shadowed. Black, as if something had burned there long ago and nothing had grown back since. I raised my camera. Through the viewfinder, the tree looked different. Older. Darker. And around its trunk, I could see markings. Symbols carved deep into the bark. Worn smooth by time, but still visible. I took the shot. The flash fired. And something in the forest screamed. Not an animal. Not a bird. A sound that started low and built to a pitch that made my teeth ache. A sound of rage. Of warning. Of hunger. I ran. I don't remember the path back. Don't remember how I found my car. I just remember driving. Hands shaking. Heart pounding. That scream still echoing in my skull. That night, in my hotel room, I uploaded the photos. Most were fine. Beautiful, even. But the shot of the twisted birch was corrupted. Just static and darkness. And in the darkness, if you looked closely, you could see shapes. Faces. Dozens of faces. Mouths open in silent screams. I deleted the file. Told myself it was a glitch. Went to sleep. At 3 in the morning, I woke to the sound of breathing outside my window. Slow, steady, patient, like something large was standing just beyond the glass, waiting for me to look. I didn't look. I lay in bed, frozen until dawn. And when I finally pulled back the curtains, I saw footprints in the frost on my windowsill. Not human footprints. Something with too many toes. Something that had stood there all night, watching me sleep. I should have left. Gone home. Forgotten the assignment. But I'm a photographer. Curiosity is my curse. And something about that tree, those symbols, that scream, wouldn't let me go. I researched the forest. What I found made my blood run cold. In 1947, a Soviet geological survey entered the Borecka Forest. 12 men, experienced scientists, they were mapping mineral deposits, looking for resources to fuel post-war reconstruction. They never came out. Search parties found their camp. Tents intact, equipment untouched, food still on plates, frozen solid. But no bodies, no tracks, no explanation. The only thing they found was a journal, its pages covered in frantic handwriting that devolved into nonsense by the final entry. The last coherent sentence read, "The trees are breathing. The trees have always been breathing. We just couldn't hear it until now." The Soviet government classified the incident, sealed the records, told the families their loved ones died in an avalanche. But locals knew the truth. They'd always known. The forest takes people, has been taking people for as long as anyone can remember. Pretty girls who wander too far, children who don't come home before dark, hunters who ignore the warnings. They vanish without a trace. And sometimes, years later, their cameras turn up. Their belongings appear at the forest's edge, arranged in neat circles, as if something is returning what it no longer needs. I went back on the third day. I had to. I found the clearing again without trying. As if the forest wanted me there. As if it had been waiting. The twisted birch looked different in the morning light. More alive. Its bark seemed to pulse, like something was moving beneath it. And the symbols on its trunk had changed. New ones had appeared overnight. Fresh cuts in ancient wood. I set up my tripod, attached my camera, and that's when I noticed the silence. Not quiet, silence. The absolute absence of sound. No birds, no wind, no insects. Even my own breathing seemed muted, swallowed by something vast and hungry. I pressed record on my camera. Whatever happened next, I wanted proof. For 10 minutes, nothing. Just me and the tree and the crushing silence. Then, slowly, the air began to change. Temperature dropping, pressure building, like a storm approaching, but the sky through the canopy was clear blue. My camera started glitching. The screen flickered. Static crackled through the audio feed. And on the display, I saw something that wasn't there when I looked with my own eyes. A figure, standing behind the tree, tall, impossibly thin, arms too long hanging past where knees should be, a face that was somehow both there and not there, features shifting like smoke. I looked up from the camera. Nothing. I looked back at the screen. The figure had moved. Closer now. Its head tilted at an angle that would break a human neck. I looked up again. Still nothing. Screen. Closer still. I could see its mouth now. Too wide. Too full of teeth. And it was smiling. Real world. Empty. Screen. Right behind me. I spun around so fast I knocked over the tripod. The camera hit the ground. The screen cracked. And for just a moment, a fraction of a second, I saw it with my own eyes. Something tall and wrong standing where nothing should be. Something that had no business existing in a world of physics and logic and natural law. Something that looked at me with eyes like deep wells and smiled with a mouth full of darkness. Then it was gone. And I was alone in the clearing, my heart trying to break through my ribs, my lungs refusing to draw breath. But I wasn't alone. I knew that now. I would never be alone again. I ran. Again. But this time, the forest didn't let me go easily. Paths twisted. Landmarks moved. Trees that I passed once appeared again and again, as if the forest was looping, trapping me in an endless maze of its own design. And all around me, from every direction, I heard breathing. Not wind, not imagination. Breathing. Dozens of sources. Hundreds. A chorus of respiration that grew louder with every step. I fell. Scraped my palms on roots that felt too warm, too soft, too much like flesh. When I looked at my hands, they were covered in something dark. Not blood, something older. Something that smelled like rot and earth and forgotten graves. I screamed. The forest screamed back. That same sound from before, but multiplied, echoing from every direction, filling my skull until I thought it would crack. Then suddenly silence. I was at the edge of the forest. My car was 50 meters away. The sun was setting, painting everything orange and red, and I had no memory of the hours between noon and now. I drove, didn't stop until I reached Warsaw, until I was surrounded by lights and noise and people, until I could almost convince myself it had been a dream. But the scratches on my palms were real, the dark stains on my clothes were real, and the symbol that appeared on my apartment window that night, traced in frost from the outside, on the 15th floor, was real. It's been 2 weeks since I left the forest. 2 weeks of jumping at shadows. 2 weeks of sleeping with every light on. 2 weeks of hearing breathing that no one else can hear. It's getting louder, closer. Every night it's right outside my door. Every morning, new symbols appear on my windows, my mirrors, my skin. Yes, my skin. I woke up 3 days ago with marks on my arms. The same symbols from the tree. Not carved, not drawn, just there, as if they'd always been there, as if my body had always been a message waiting to be read. I've tried to ignore it, tried to go back to normal life, but normal doesn't exist anymore. Not for me, not for anyone who's seen what I've seen. Because here's the truth I've realized. The forest didn't take those Soviet scientists, didn't take the old woman's daughter, didn't take all those hunters and children and pretty girls who wandered too far. It marked them, just like it marked me, and then it called them back. I can feel it calling now. Every night, the pull gets stronger. Every day, the normal world feels less real. Sometimes I look at people on the street and I can't remember what they are, what I used to be, before the forest showed me what's really there. Underneath everything, behind the thin skin of reality, there's something breathing, something that's always been breathing, something so old and vast that we're nothing more than mayflies to it. Brief flickers of warmth in an endless cold dark. And it's hungry. It's always been hungry. And it's patient. So patient. I'm going back tomorrow. I know I shouldn't. I know what happens to people who go back. But I don't have a choice anymore. The marks on my skin are spreading. The breathing is inside my head now, constant, overwhelming, drowning out everything else. And if I'm being honest, I want to go back. Need to. That tree, that clearing, that thing I saw on my camera screen, they're the only real things left. Everything else is just noise, just distraction, just the desperate denial of a species that doesn't want to know what's really out there. I'm uploading this video as insurance, as warning, as proof that I existed, that this happened, that the things we're afraid of in the dark aren't imagination. If you're watching this, if you've made it this far, I need you to do something for me. Stay out of old forests, the ones that were there before humans. The ones that feel too quiet, too watchful, too alive. They remember what they are. They remember what we've forgotten. And they're waiting for us to remember too. If you ever find yourself in a place where the silence presses against your ears, where shadows move wrong, where you feel eyes on you that you can't see, leave. Don't investigate. Don't try to understand. Don't be curious. Because curiosity is how it gets you. That need to know. That human compulsion to understand. It uses that, feeds on that, draws you deeper and deeper until you're standing in a clearing you never meant to find, looking at something that shouldn't exist, feeling your sanity crack like thin ice over deep water. And by then, it's too late. You're already marked, already chosen, already belong to something older than fear, older than memory, older than the first human who looked into the darkness and knew, with absolute certainty, that something was looking back. It's almost midnight. The breathing outside my window is louder than ever. I can feel the marks on my skin pulsing, warm and alive, like they're excited, like they know what's coming. Tomorrow I drive back to Poland, back to the Borecka Forest, back to that twisted birch and its impossible symbols and whatever waits beneath its branches. I don't expect to come back. Not really. Not as myself. But maybe that's okay. Maybe that's what's supposed to happen. Maybe we're all just walking towards something dark and patient, and the only difference is whether we go willingly or screaming. I'm choosing to walk. The door is opening now. I didn't touch it, but it's opening anyway, letting in cold air that smells like moss and rot and ancient trees. And standing in the doorway, I can see a shape, tall, thin, wrong. It's smiling at me. It's been smiling at me since the beginning, since before I was born. Since before my grandmother was born. Since before humans learned to walk upright and look at the stars and wonder what was looking back. I'm gonna stop recording now. I'm going to take its hand if it has hands. I'm going to let it lead me wherever it wants to go. Back to the forest. Back to the breathing. Back to the chorus of voices that no one can hear. And when you play this back, when you listen to the silence at the end, after my voice stops, listen carefully. Really carefully. You'll hear it too. The breathing. Slow, steady, patient. Has been there all along. In every recording. In every silence. In every dark corner of every room you've ever been afraid to look into. And now that you've heard it, now that you know it's there, you'll never stop hearing it. It'll follow you. Into your dreams. Into your waking hours. Into the quiet moments when you're alone and the world feels thin and something, somewhere, is watching. Welcome to the forest. Welcome to the silence. Welcome to the breathing. We've been waiting for you. Marta Kowalska's camera was found on November 3, 2023, at the edge of the Borecka Forest, arranged in a circle with her hiking boots, her jacket, and her car keys. The memory card was damaged but partially recoverable. This audio was extracted from a corrupted video file. Polish authorities have officially listed her as missing. The case remains open. Locals say the forest has been quieter since she disappeared, as if something that was hungry has finally been fed. But at night, if you stand at the edge of the trees and listen very carefully, you can hear a woman's voice, whispering, warning, begging, and underneath her voice, always, the breathing continues.